Hi, I'm Christy Longfellow. I'm with Hobson Insurance, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about some liability coverages that you may or may not have on your policy. Um, One of the big ones is cyber liability and data breach. You can have hackers and people find their way into your system, whether you go to a website and click on something and they enter. Perhaps they send you an email, a phishing email. You have a package delivery and someone clicks on it, they get in. They can come into your system, they can steal your data, they can shut down your website, they can encrypt all your data so you have nothing, you have no inventory, no accounting information. Anything that you store on your computer can be stolen or completely destroyed, and it's happened and I've seen it and it's bad. So cyber liability and data breach, there's a lot of different coverages and a lot of different kind of policies. They've expanded and become more and more robust. So please look into it. Loss prevention, make sure that you have internet guidelines in place. Don't let your employees play on the internet, go to sites other than completely business related. If you can get a firewall, highly recommended. Make sure you have virus protection. If you don't know who it's from, don't click on it. Those are some loss control things you can do. One of the things I've seen that you have to get very specific coverage for it is someone will send an email to your accountant and say, hey, you need to pay this bill and da 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 da. And the accountant doesn't look at it carefully, whatever, sends the money off to these people. Come to find out it's a hack job, and typically there's no coverage for that. So be very, very careful. Make sure you know exactly who it is that you're sending money to. Typically, also, if someone places an order over the phone and gives you a credit card, and you take the credit card and you ship the merchandise off, and the credit card a couple days later comes back and says, oh, it's stolen, that's called voluntary surrender, and typically there's no coverage for that. So have some real sound procedures in place and require signatures if you're taking credit cards and doing things over the phone. Very important. I've seen people get ripped off horribly. And that would be cyber liability and data breach coverage. Look into that. Another liability coverage, which is kind of sad but real, and I've seen a lot of claims, is employment practices liability. So that is an employee sues you for wrongful discharge, discrimination of any kind that you could think of, and your policy, there's all sorts of different limits, different deductibles, but it's becoming more and more common. And the thing about it is you may not do anything wrong, but if you have an employee that finds a lawyer and they say you did something wrong, then you need defense. And defense is very expensive. And if you don't have a policy in place, you don't have coverage, and you have to pick up that lawyer bill, and it's a lot. So sometimes even if you have just a touch, sometimes it's included. Maybe you'd have like $10,000 or $5,000, which is really nothing, on your business owner policy. It's better than nothing, and it may be just a nuisance to, and that person just wants some money, which so that is employment practices liability. Another liability coverage that you might want to look at is if you have any sort of benefit plan for your employees, whether it's a simple 401k, health insurance, any kind of benefit plan, you want to make sure that you've got employee benefits liability on your policy. That way, say somebody said, hey, I want to change my contribution to da 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 da, and 5 years later that didn't get done, and they sue you and say, well, I would have had more money had you done that correctly. Or somebody adopts a child and you forget to put him on the health insurance plan, and then the child gets sick. So really, anytime you provide benefits to your employees, you want to have employee benefit liability. Something I talked about in the business insurance video is hired and non-owned auto, and it's sort of can be confusing, but what it is you want to make sure you have hired and non-owned auto if you're using any vehicles not titled in the business name, whether you're an LLC or a corporation. If you have an employee or you driving a personally titled vehicle for business related things, whether you're doing a bank deposit or going to a show or transferring property between places, if that vehicle gets in an accident and hurts somebody else, causes property damage or bodily injury to somebody else, that non-owned auto liability will defend the business and protect the business, which is really important. And I've seen some of the biggest claims come out of our office because of non-owned auto liability. If you have a business auto policy, the best place to pick up that coverage is on the business auto policy, but you can cover it on a business owner policy. It's an additional liability coverage, and it's not that expensive, and it's very worth it. Something to keep in mind, a lot of business owners will title their vehicle in the corporation, and you have a business auto policy. Fine and great, but if as the business owner, if you don't also have a personal auto liability policy, you have a gap in coverage. You have a huge hole in coverage. So if all you have are business-owned autos, you don't have a personal auto policy, you need to add drive other car coverage to your business auto policy for the owners. And you want to list every owner, whether it's you, your wife, as having drive other car coverage on your business auto policy. And the reason is because typically on your personal auto policy, if you're driving someone else's vehicle or a rental vehicle, your personal auto policy will pick up your personal liability. If you don't have that personal auto policy and all you have is a business auto policy, then your business auto policy will pick up your personal liability if you add drive other car coverage. So another huge thing that people need to be aware of. Umbrella policies. What are umbrella policies? A lot of people get really confused with umbrella policies. They have $1 million umbrella policy and they think just because it's an umbrella policy, it covers everything. It does not cover any property at all. Umbrella policies are not property policies. You have $1 million of liability only. Liability coverage means you had a duty, you breached the duty, you didn't do a good job, somebody got hurt or somebody's property got damaged, you're liable. And so an umbrella policy goes over the top of your underlying business owner policy. So say you have $1 million, $2 million, $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate on your underlying policy. If you had one claim, say someone was injured in a tree stand or archery or gun accident, whatever it was, bad accident, and you hit your $1 million limit on your underlying policy, say they tripped and fell in your store and it was an elderly lady and she broke her hip and then died or didn't die, whatever it is, you'd have up to $1 million on your underlying. Once that is maxed out, then your umbrella kicks in. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Your umbrella goes over the top of your underlying limit. The reason that's important is because if you do have an umbrella policy, all your underlying policies must be listed on the umbrella policy in order to be picked up. Now, some coverages like hired and non-owned auto, some umbrellas won't extend that coverage and give you more coverage. Un- and underinsured motorist is another thing. Gosh, look at your limits. Whether it's your business policy or your personal policy, look at un- and underinsured motorist coverage. That is covering the other guy who doesn't have insurance hurting you or your property. I see such low limits on that, and I've seen it used a lot. So that's a huge one. But anyway, what got me on that one was make sure all your policies are listed on your umbrella policy. And so you have a commercial auto, you've got your business owner policy, you want to make sure they're listed. And you can also count that towards your personal lines policy. If you have a personal umbrella, make sure that everything you own is under there. I've seen it where sometimes it's less expensive maybe to insure a boat with a different carrier than, say, that insures your home. No big deal, but make sure that your umbrella policy lists your home, your boat, your ATVs, your snowmobiles, any other cabin you have, any property. You want to make sure it goes over everything. And I a lot of times see that there's things missing, and that's a hole in coverage, especially with boats and jet skis. Somebody could get hurt, and you want your umbrella going over that. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to call me. I wanted this to be fairly simple, but kind of all-encompassing things to get you to think about, and when you're looking at your policy, trigger, hey, do I have that? Do I need that? Just kind of general information, and I'm trying to include some of the things that I see frequently. So thanks for listening, and talk to you later.